Hello, welcome to Prism Technologies. I am Venkat. This is part 48 of ASP.NET Gridview tutorial. In this video, we'll discuss about sorting an ASP.NET Gridview control both in ascending and descending order. In part 47 of the ASP.NET Gridview tutorial, we discussed about doing exactly the same thing, but if you remember, the problem there was we were never able to sort the data in descending order. Look at this. When the web form loads, the data is sorted by employee ID. I click on this column once again, it doesn't get sorted in descending order. Let me click on the name column. I click on it the first time, the data gets sorted in ascending order. I click on that once again. Notice that the data doesn't get sorted in descending order. And that was because if you look at the sort direction property of this grid view sort event arguments object, this was always returning ascending. And that was the reason why the data was never sorted in descending order. So here I click on employee ID the first time, so the sort expression is employee ID, sort direction is ascending. I click on it the second time, look at that, the sort direction is still ascending, and that's the reason why the data is not getting sorted in descending order. Let me test that with this name column. I click on the name column, notice that sort expression is name, sort direction is ascending. I click on that once again, it's still ascending. Okay, in this video we'll discuss about correcting this problem. There are three simple steps to follow, to solve this issue. Okay, obviously the first step is to create a custom attribute on the grid view control. So I'm going to add two custom attributes for this grid view control. The first one, I'm going to call it current sort field. And I'm going to set that, look at this, when the grid view control first renders, the data is sorted by employee ID. So the current sort field is going to be employee ID. So that's the column by which the data is sorted. And current sort direction. And I'm going to set that to ascending, because when the web form loads, it's sorted by employee ID and in ascending order. Okay, so current sort field is employee ID, current sort direction is ascending. Those are the two custom attributes. This is the first step, and the second step is to basically create a private method. Now remember, what is the problem here? The problem is this e.sort direction was always giving us ascending. Somehow we have to remember the previous sort direction and then change it. If it was ascending, change it to descending. If it is descending, change it to ascending, if we are sorting it by the same column. So that's what we have to achieve, and to do that we'll have to implement a private method. So just to speed things up, I have this private method already implemented. Let me copy and paste that here. And if you look at this private method, it's very simple and straightforward. All it has got is 4 parameters here. And if you notice the first 2 parameters, it's the grid view control. So the grid view control which you are sorting, in our case it's grid view 1 control, and grid view sort event arguments object. So this object is coming into the sorting event handler method as a parameter. Okay, so that's what we will be passing into this private method. So those are the first 2 parameters, and the last 2 parameters are the output parameters, which are nothing but sort direction and sort field. Okay, so the grid view sort event arguments object has got those 2 properties, sort direction and sort field. So we are going to use these output parameters basically to remember the sort field and the sort direction that was used to sort the grid view control, and then change them dynamically. Okay, so here I am initializing these 2 output parameters, sort direction and sort field, to whatever the properties are of this grid view sort event arguments, sort expression and sort direction. Okay, remember the first time when the grid view control renders, it's sorted by employee ID and in ascending order, and sort expression is going to return employee ID and ascending. Now no matter how many times you click on this employee ID column, remember sort direction is always going to be ascending, and that's what will be stored in this sort direction output parameter. It will always be ascending. Somehow we will have to change it to descending if the sort field is the same column. For example, I click on employee ID. If I click on employee ID again, we need to change that to descending, the sort direction, and that's what this method is going to do. Okay, so that's the first step. The first, I mean, here we are first retrieving sort expression and sort direction, storing them in these output parameters, and then we are checking, okay, the sort field and current sort direction attributes. Remember, in the first step we have set them to employee ID and current sort direction is ascending. If both of them are not equal to null, which is what is the case right now, it comes into this block and checks, okay, is the sort field equal to whatever is there as the current sort field as an attribute on the grid view control. Okay, so if I click on employee ID once again, what's going to happen? Sort field will be employee ID and the attribute here is employee ID. Okay, so if that is the case, then check the current sort direction. So is the current sort direction ascending? And that's true. So the data is already sorted by ascending order. So all we are doing is, if it's ascending, then set it to descending, the sort direction, this particular output parameter. If it's not ascending, then we know it's descending, in which case we want to set it to ascending back. Okay, and then what are we doing? We are readjusting the attributes of the grid view control. Current sort field, set it to whatever we are going to sort it by. And look at this sort direction. If the sort direction is ascending, then we want to use those abbreviated forms. Otherwise, SQL Server will throw a syntax error. We can't use complete words ascending and descending. We have discussed about that in the previous session as well. So I'm using the attributes here. If it's ascending, use the string ASC. Otherwise, we know it will be descending, in which case use DESC. So this is our second step. Implement the private method to remember the sort direction. Okay, and then finally what we need to do, we need to invoke this private method within our sorting event handler method. Okay, so to do that, let me comment this. And then first of all, remember this private method has got two output parameters, so we need to declare two variables which we are going to pass as parameters, as output parameters to this function. So the first parameter is of type sort direction. So let me go ahead and create a variable of type sort direction. And let's initialize that to ascending. And then the second parameter is of type string. So let me create a variable here of type string, and let's call this sort field. And let's initialize that to an empty string. Okay, so these two will be passed as output parameters. So let's invoke our private method. So the name of the method is sort grid view. The first parameter is the grid view control that we want to sort. It's nothing but grid view 1 control. So I'm going to pass that grid view 1, grid view sort event arguments object, that's coming into this event handler method, which is E, and then the output parameters. So we have to use the out keyword when passing in an output parameter, and the first parameter is sort direction. So I'm going to pass that, and the second parameter is our sort field, and I'm going to pass that variable which we have just created. So now what's going to happen, these two output parameters are going to receive the values from this private method. Now sort field is also an output parameter, so I have to use the out keyword. Alright, after we are done with that, now what we need to do is we need to resort the grid view control. And to do that, look at this, I'm going to make use of this variable here, str sort direction. And then notice that we are using the grid view sort event arguments objects sort direction property. Instead of that, I'm going to use this variable. So if that variable is equal to ascending, then set the abbreviated form ASC, otherwise set it to descending, and then we are passing that to our employee data access layer. That's it. Let me go ahead and run this and see if it's going to work as expected. So when the grid view control renders, the data will be sorted by employee ID. I click on this column, look at that, it's sorted in descending order. I click on that once again, resorted in ascending order. I click on the name column, the first time it's sorted in ascending order. I click on it once again, it's sorted in descending order. Okay, so it's working as expected. Another thing here, look at that, we are passing in grid view control, grid view 1. If you don't want to hard code the ID there, you can use the sender object here. Okay, what is sender? Sender is the control that has raised the event. In our case, it's nothing but grid view 1 control. So if you don't want to use grid view 1, I can simply say sender. But sender, what is the type? It's object. So we need to typecast it to be of type grid view control using the typecast operator. So I'm going to do that, grid view. So even this is going to work fine. Just instead of using the ID of the control, I'm using the event handler parameter there. So I click on that, it gets sorted as expected. Alright. On this slide you can find resources for ASP.NET, C# and SQL Server interview questions. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.